It seems like Alec Baldwin, yes, that Alec Baldwin, has been charged with involuntary manslaughter. Can you believe it? The man who brought us the classic catchphrase, Alec Baldwin is always funny, has now been charged in connection to the fatal shooting of director of photography Halyna Hutchins. Halyna was only 42 years old, and this is a tragedy for her family and friends. According to the New York Post, the charges were filed by New Mexico 1st Judicial District Attorney Mark Carmack Altwise on January 31st. And not only Alec, but the film's armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed was also charged in connection to the case. 1st Judicial District Attorney's Office spokesperson Heather Brewer says the district attorney and the special prosecutor are fully focused on securing justice for Halyna Hutchins. The evidence and the facts speak for themselves. So how did it start? Or should I ask, what exactly happened on the set? Well, it was a typical day of rehearsals when Mr. Baldwin was practicing a scene where he was supposed to cross-draw a revolver and point it toward the camera lens. And let's just say things didn't go as planned. Can you believe that the gun was actually discharged? I mean, who would have thought that a fake gun would actually go off? But it did, and unfortunately, it hit both Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza. The tragedy of this event is that Ms. Hutchins, who was only 42 years old, was airlifted to a hospital in Albuquerque where she passed away. Mr. Souza, the film's director, was also hit, but he was able to recover and was released from the hospital the next day. And wait, there's more. It turns out, hours before the shooting, 6 members of the camera crew walked off the set due to some complaints about working conditions. And what's even crazier is that there were at least 2 accidental gun discharges on the set just days before the fatal shooting. So there you have it, folks, a shocking event that happened on the film set. Who would have thought that a movie scene could end up being a real-life tragedy? Let's hope that this serves as a lesson for all film sets to have proper safety measures in place. But hold on, who is this Halyna? I know some are asking. Well, we're talking about the talented and visionary cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. This woman was a true master of her craft and a deeply committed filmmaker. But where did her journey begin? Well, buckle up because you won't believe this. Halyna grew up on a Soviet military base in the Arctic Circle. Can you even imagine growing up at a place like that? I can't even handle the cold in my apartment, let alone the Arctic Circle. After studying economics in Ukraine, Halyna realized that her true passion was in storytelling and made the switch to a journalism program at Kyiv National University. But she wasn't done yet. Halyna then attended the American Film Institute Conservatory in Los Angeles, where she honed her skills and became the incredible cinematographer that we all know today. Unfortunately, Halyna's journey came to an end far too soon. On February 15th, her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against crew members and producers, including Alec Baldwin. The lawsuit accused them of reckless conduct and cost-cutting measures that endangered the crew.
As filming began inside the wooden church, no one could ever have imagined the tragedy.
We were having so much fun shooting this movie. It was really great. The story was good. The acting was great. Couldn't be prouder about the effects.
He was particularly fond of Rust's cinematographer, Halyna Hutchins.
But in a touching turn of events, as part of a settlement announced in October, Halyna's husband will become an executive producer on the film, ensuring that her legacy lives on through her work. And now into the judgment. The big announcement just came in, and the charges have been filed via email. Can you believe it? Email, who would have thought? But wait for it. The district attorney and special prosecutor, Andrea Reeb, will not be giving any public appearances or media interviews. Bummer, I was hoping to get a glimpse of her in action. Just over a week ago, Mary had announced that she would be moving forward with the charges. And now, after a thorough review of the evidence and the laws of New Mexico, she has determined that there is enough evidence to file criminal charges against Alec Baldwin and the Rust film crew. Wow, this is getting interesting. I can feel the drama building up already. What do you guys think of this? But again, let's give this thing a second eye and dive into this story and see what his attorney has to say about it. According to him, Alec Baldwin is in trouble again, and this time it's not because he's mimicking the president on Saturday Night Live. But seriously, let's take a look at the charges that Alec Baldwin is facing. Apparently, during the informal decision on January 19th, Alec Baldwin was informed that he's going to be charged. And his attorney, Luke Nikas of Quinn Emanuel, had a lot to say about this. Hold on to your seats, folks, because this statement is a doozy. Are you ready? Let's hear what Luke has to say. This decision distorts Halyna Hutchins' tragic death and represents a terrible miscarriage of justice. Mr. Baldwin had no reason to believe that there was a live bullet in in the gun or anywhere on the movie set. He relied on the professionals with whom he worked, who assured him the gun did not have live rounds. We will fight these charges and we will win. But wait a minute, we're not here to talk about the producer. We're here to talk about the late cinematographer Helena. So picture this. Alec is on the set ready to film and everything is going according to plan. But suddenly, tragedy strikes. Alec was holding a gun that fired on set, and unfortunately, Helena lost her life. Can you even imagine the shock and the horror that everyone on set must have felt? And if that wasn't enough, Helena...
I'm happy to stay right here and do everything you need.
Well, my lieutenant just wants you to stay away from everybody and not to talk to nobody, so I was...
Wait right here.
Okay,
Yeah, Brown's here.
there should, okay, no, so this is the one, I'm pretty sure, this is
her right underarm,
Yeah.
and the exit point was on her back left shoulder blade, so
Cross it.
it went.
Live bullet into the gun, along with 5 dummy rounds. It was about to be a fatal mistake.
Helena's family then filed a wrongful death lawsuit in an attempt to get justice for her. It's a sad reality that sometimes the law is the only way to get the answers we seek. But let's take a step back and remember the impact of this tragedy on Helena's loved ones. This son has lost his mother. It's a heartbreaking thought, isn't it? A young boy will never have the chance to grow up with his mother by his side. And for the husband, he lost his wife, his soulmate. A loss like that will stay with him forever. And as if that's not enough, remember the subsequent interviews with the alleged perpetrator, Alec. Let's start with what Alec had to say about the incident. In a December 2021 interview with ABC News, Alec stated that he would go to any lengths to undo what happened. He also insisted on his innocence, saying the trigger wasn't pulled, and insisted that he didn't pull the trigger. But wait a minute, did you catch that? He's talking about the tragedy in such detail, and yet denying any responsibility? How's that work? Next up, we have Helena's husband, Matthew Hutchins, speaking to NBC News. He expressed his anger toward Alec, saying he was just so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly in such a detailed way and then not accept any responsibility. Now, this is where things get really interesting. How can someone talk about a tragedy in such detail and not accept responsibility for it? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can you imagine that? Just 2 days before Alec Baldwin faced formal charges, his wife, Hilaria Baldwin, broke her silence on the matter in an episode of her podcast, Witches Anonymous. Now, I have to say, I'm a big fan of podcasts, but who knew witches had their own anonymous support group? But all jokes aside, let's talk about what Hilaria had to say. She said that it's been an emotional time for her family, and she does want to express how grateful she was for any support and kindness and reason. She continued to say that, quite honestly, without it, they would crumble. Wow, that sounds like Hilaria and her family are going through a tough time. But it's great to see that they have the support of their fans to help them through it. Do you think Alec Baldwin is guilty or not? And what do you think the consequences will be for the Rust film crew? Until next time, stay curious and stay tuned for more updates on this case.